Alright everyone, we're going to start off today talking about this $600 stimulus check they're talking about for the U.S. It's a joke. It's an actual mockery that's united. Congress has managed to unite basically the whole U.S. population in condemning them and shaking their heads sadly for 20 or 30 different reasons. We'll get into as many as we can, but first, I am shadow banned on YouTube, which means people are randomly getting unsubscribed, they're not getting notifications, the algorithms demote my content in favor of authoritative or mainstream news coverage, which means corporations that you probably don't like. So if you want to share the link, if you're watching this on YouTube, on a site where it'll be searchable, that's appreciated. Also, there will be links in the description and 4 links in a pinned comment for those on YouTube to other better video sites that I as well use. Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Dailymotion. Now, we had the COVID check. Basically, it's brunch time for those of you who are more progressive or socialistic. It's sellout time for all of you who are America Firsters. It's time to belly up to the bar and give billions and billions of dollars to other countries. And for those of you who are more neoliberal, it's time to fall short as far as actually giving any form of realistic relief to small businesses or the unemployed specifically. This bill essentially does the following. It cuts a $600 stimulus check to each American, including some illegal immigrants, which should have everyone outraged considering the economic situation right now. $600 is meaningless. It's not even going to pay the average person's rent for a subcompact apartment. $600 means absolutely goddamn nothing. In the scheme of it, they might as well not even give people these checks because it's not going to have any impact. For once, the squad, the Gang of Four, actually has a point when they're like, well, this is basically a survival check. For a single week, you got some family. You got 4 people, they each get their check, maybe, depending on income, status, probably their race or some shit. So they get $2,400. Okay, they can pay their rent that month. That's great. They can get some groceries if they can find a grocery store that's still open. Of course, all of it will go to China because it'll all be imported products. They're not allowed to go to the ma and pa store. And then the same bill is giving enormous sums of money to foreign nations. We are broke. We shouldn't be giving a penny to any other nations. Trump should veto this. He should just say, you know what, this is a goddamn farce, fuck it, and veto the fucking bill. And then there's a cutoff, too. I'm thinking to myself, if you look at the income cutoffs, it's like, what's it, $78,000 for an individual. That's pretty good. If an individual is making 78 grand, they're making a pretty decent amount of money. What about small business owners? What about people who on paper make a lot of money, but at the same time, they operate on an almost zero-sum budget, plus the lockdown expenses, so now they're in the red and you're giving them $600? Is it, yeah, sorry you lost your small business, here's $600 to compensate for the fact that your former 6-figure income has dwindled to negative numbers. Sorry you had to liquidate literally every finance that you had on hand in order to keep your family fed. Here's $600. Buy some cornmeal. You might as well just take it and shove it up your ass, and it's not worth the paper it's printed on anyway. We're destroying our currency with the lockdowns. I got a better idea. End the lockdown completely. Ban all lockdowns. End them completely. End all lockdown restrictions. If other countries have a problem and say, well, the U.S. is being dangerous, we're going to close our ports to them. Fuck them. Who cares? Maybe we can have an internal, for once we can actually make things in the United States then. Other countries should fucking do the same thing. End all lockdowns, end all restrictions, reimburse those who have lost their businesses, reimburse landlords not getting rent and their renters, take a hit one time and then put it all behind us and go back to fucking normal. We don't need UBI. We don't need to tinker around with rent and try to make everyone have to rent from the state by abolishing the landlord class. We don't need to change anything. Yes, we should get back to normal. When Biden and all these moron opportunists say, well, we can't go back to the old norm. Yes, you can. Human response is what took us out of the realm of normality. The virus did not. The virus didn't cripple the economy. People's reaction to it, paranoid, fear, and stupidity, superstition, and authoritarianism, that's what ruined the economy. You'll notice there's a pretty big differential right now between states that have locked everything down and states where they say, hey, please wash your hands. You'll notice the same in different countries. It's funny. There are countries out there where coronavirus restrictions are basically a business can tell you to wear a mask and you should wash your hands, and if you feel sick, please don't go anywhere. There's a huge difference in the economic hit that those nations had, very slight, versus nations that locked everything down and now have said to basically every small business owner, every worker, every middle classer, every investor, every entrepreneur, certainly everyone in travel and tourism worldwide, they've told them to fuck themselves. We're sitting there worrying about this new COVID strain. Oh my God, it's more transmissible than before. It's already gotten out of the UK. It's going to go worldwide, replace COVID-19 essentially with COVID-20, and it's going to be even more impossible to fight. Fuck the vaccine. It doesn't even matter. It's going to spread out of control before you deploy it to most people. They're talking about a 4 or 5 month time frame in some of these countries. Jesus Christ, look at the growth rate of COVID-19 as it was before in the first 4 or 5 months. You think you're really going to stop this? And then you're dealing with a vaccine that may be between 70 and 90% effective, depending on the situation. It's not going to stop it. World population density is high enough to keep that burning, and it'll just mutate again. It'll get around your containment, and you'll be right back to square one. Admit that it's endemic. And first, we've got to come to terms to things. Knowing the truth is important. Acknowledging reality the way it really is and not spiritual pipe dreams is pretty goddamn important. Number one, acknowledge this virus came from a lab in Wuhan, China. The Chinese government lied to us all because it didn't want to have a situation where it had a pandemic, contained it, and no one else got sick because it knew that it would decrease its capabilities on the world stage back to an extremely low level. They knew that it would be an embarrassment diplomatically. It'd be crippling to their manpower, while other countries wouldn't suffer that problem. Their borders would be closed, their economy would flatline, and they'd enter a depression. And meanwhile, the rest of the world, the rest of Asia specifically, is what they're afraid of. They would get the investment that would be going to China. China collapses, the other Asian countries become stronger, China relapses and stops being the great power player of East Asia. That's number one. We need to admit that it was completely for political and economic reasons that this happened in the first place. A competent nation could have closed its borders, warned the world, and contained the virus. China certainly. They're so dictatorial and authoritarian, they would have just created a wall of fire around Wuhan and killed anything that got within 100 yards of their line of fire. That's what they should have done, and they could have done it too. Let it burn itself out internally. Even China wouldn't have taken that big a hit if they had been successful. That's number one. Number two, admit that it's endemic. Number three, admit that there's no apparent capable treatment, nor is there a fully effective vaccine, and that this means this will become a seasonal issue just like influenza, which makes sense since it is a coronavirus. And number four, admit that things like masks and lockdowns marginally slow the spread, but ultimately are not a solution. We've been told this by the medical establishment itself. The WHO came out months ago and said, look, we can't just keep locking things down forever. It's impossible. We need to make progress towards a vaccine. Well, if you had a vaccine that was mandatory, 100% effective, and you could make 10 billion doses in a single day, that would be great. But you don't have that. There's no guarantee the average person even bothers to get it. And by the way, most people, they look around them, they're not surrounded by caskets. They don't take it quite as seriously as the MSM wants you to believe it is. Ultimately, the human response on the end of stimulus, this isn't going to stimulate anything. We shouldn't need it. What we should have done in the first place is protested the goddamn lockdowns and said, look, stop being so fucking goddamn paranoid, Karen. That's the problem, the human response. This is an insult. It's an insult to every American to be paying off foreign nations, giving people peanuts after robbing them blind anyway. Look, the amount of money that they have to potentially stimulate, if you look at the total in this bill, they should be able to give every man, woman, and child in the United States a couple $1,000s. That would sustain things, but no, they're giving it to corporations and foreign countries. That's who they want to pay off. And people who are in the country legally, millions of them will get a check. It won't benefit them either, though. It's still just $600 fucking dollars. Maybe for someone who's at the poverty line, 600 is like, oh, you got a decent check. That's fine. It's still not going to help you long term. We're just going to wreck the economy, giving people more funny money. If ever there was a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to buy Bitcoin with my $600 check. Probably a good idea. Buy a gun, buy some Bitcoin, $600 of cow manure for making your garden a little bit bigger so you can put in some extra corn when we suffer a 4-year depression. These people are goddamn nuts. If Trump doesn't veto this, I don't know what, they might be out to lunch too at this point. And Jesus Christ, that $600 is really going to help. It's really going to help everybody. It's a farce. We shouldn't need any stimulus. By the way, this is sort of like the Bush stimulus. It's like, hey, the economy's going so well, I'm going to give everyone a little bit of money. It didn't stimulate jack shit. It didn't boost the economy. It just wasted trillions of dollars. It was completely pointless. Stimulus in this sense doesn't work. Why don't you just reduce the tax rate on small businesses and entrepreneurs and call it a day? Small businesses in the middle class are the ones disproportionately suffering with this bullshit that's currently going on. It's not saving lives. This isn't going to help anyone economically. Again, how far does $600 go in your small business? How far does that really fucking goddamn go? None. It doesn't make any difference. The difference is so insignificant and marginal that it might as well not be counted as a difference at all. Yeah, add another zero onto that and give it to small business owners. Keep them afloat for a couple of months, hopefully, so they don't have to turn the lights off forever, ruining every small community in the country. It's basically an attack on middle America anyway. It's an attack on the burbs and small town America. And rural zones. And rural zones maybe a little bit less, because those communities, some of them have just decided to ignore lockdowns altogether and act like nothing's happening. I don't see people dropping like flies in those communities. Supposedly, there are hundreds of thousands of people keeling over from this disease. Where are the graves? I'm not questioning that the deaths are there, but we're being told it's basically Armageddon and we need to literally overhaul our way of life worldwide. And the impact, other than the human impact, appears to be more or less negligible. Just saying, just going out on a limb there and saying that this is being misused the same way every other major disaster and problem is misused. Government uses it to gain more power and then makes stupid decisions like this. Everyone should condemn this stimulus plan. We should be demanding it be vetoed and the issue dropped. Give relief to small businesses, give relief only to U.S. citizens, cut out the pork spending on other countries that do not need, or in some cases even fucking goddamn want our help. Fuck them. They have to take care of themselves. In a time like this, with economic problems and a pandemic, keep our money inside the U.S., make it work for Americans. And probably, don't base it on individual income in the case of small businesses. Throw them a bone. They're all being completely goddamn destroyed, and it's a farce. It's sad to see that people are actually tolerating this shit, too. That's about all. Peace out.